Wake up, Adam, they are getting close.
It's just a plan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man. Contingency.
All right, what is going on, guys? It's Adam, aka Marf. When I titled this, "Send This to Your Family Members," I meant it, and I hope people end up sharing today's show out with their friends and family members, because we're going to go over a ton of what we have followed over the last few years, including today's revelations that the senators were just issued satellite phones. Again, this is being politicized already. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the official narrative of it. We'll talk about what I've already heard from some of my friends and some of the people I trust. We'll talk about that all in just a little bit. But first off, I do want to go over the debt ceiling. This is a disaster in a whole other ballpark that people are waiting on. And it says that Yellen says that June 1st is a hard deadline for raising the debt ceiling. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Sunday said June 1st remains, quote, a hard deadline for raising the federal debt limit, with the odds quite low that the government will collect through enough revenue to bridge the June 15th. It says when more tax receipts are due. Yellen, speaking on NBC's Meet the Press program, said that there would be hard choices to make about payments to Americans if Congress failed to raise the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling before Treasury ran out of cash and was forced to default. I indicated in my last letter to Congress that we were to expect to be unable to pay all of our bills in early June and possibly as soon as June 1st. And I will continue to update Congress, but I certainly haven't changed my assessment. So I think that's a hard deadline, she said. This is most definitely something that is not good. There is an update, of course, an update that's a little bit newer than this. Essentially, JB, our president, said that he was going to meet with McCarthy. They have. It doesn't seem to have changed anything. So this is not going well. We'll talk about this and much, much more on tonight's episode of Marfoogle TV. All of your current events packed into a small amount of time. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
Contingency. It's just a plan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man. Contingency.
Remember to get your notifications over at marfooglenews.com. What is going on, guys? It is Adam, aka Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today, we have a ton to cover in a short amount of time. So if you are new here, remember you can always go over to marfooglenews.com and find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to talk about here today. Just look for today's thumbnail. It's very easily organized by thumbnail. Click on Send This to Your Family Members, and you will find a full bibliography for all of our sources, including every single article, tweet, video, picture, document we are going to show you here today. On top of that, there's a whole lot more. So it is a great website as well to share with people if you want them, if you want to give them the access to pretty much everything collated and put there all in one spot for them each day. So let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So, first of all, the Janet Yellen saying that it's a hard deadline. I guess what can we see happen if if nothing, I guess if nothing happens, if nothing changes, what does this actually mean? The post office shuts down. I mean, like, what actually happens when this all goes down?
Well, it's not just federal employees that won't have the funds to be paid and all of the bills that we pay, but it actually has repercussions around the globe. Orders in, say, Chinese factories that sell electronics would dry up. Swiss investors who own U.S. Treasury bills would suffer losses. Sri Lankan companies could no longer deploy dollars as an alternative to their own dodgy currency. Those are some examples that we actually have an article about this in the overflow section. It talks about what are the different things that can happen. They're predicting potentially, upwards of 7.8 million jobs would vanish. Borrowing rates would jump. Unemployment would go from 3.4 up to 8%. And even the stock market plunge could erase about 10 trillion in household wealth. Those are just some of the predictions they're saying that could happen if we default on the debt.
So it's pretty serious if this ends up happening. We don't know what, something may be, being done right now as far as to cover this and push it all under the rug at some point, right when it gets down to the deadline. Everything's fine. Who knows? Again, there's always the chance that it could be end up being a nothing burger, right? But most people do not believe that it is going to be that way. So let me pop in, and I actually believe there were two stories that ended up just getting wiped out there. So let me put those back up. It is a live show, so we have anything and everything happen. But first, let's go over this. So first of all, everybody is talking about the satellite phones that senators were just given. Now, they said that 100 were offered and about 50 have taken. Immediately, since we know that the Senate is split 50-50, most people are already saying, oh, well, yeah, the Republicans didn't take them and the Dems did, right? This is something that is not confirmed. It's just people are assuming that half exactly took them. I don't think it's an exact number, and I personally think all of them probably did. But if they're being asked by a reporter, probably one side is saying that they're not. These satellite phones are for emergency contingencies. I see absolutely no reason that one of them would not take it. I could see a reason why they would say they didn't take it. Like, oh, we don't need that because there's not going to be another January event type thing. I could see that being used for publicity or something like that. But I don't see them actually not taking it. This is the government giving them a straight-up satellite phone that in the case of a full-on grid down, in the full-on case where they do not have internet, they would be able to have communications with the rest of the government. Now, when you think about this, how they put it, and we did put the official narrative out there as far as the CBS article that explains that this is a gentleman that basically took over and he's hardening everything. And after the January event, he was basically, beefing up everything. I don't buy this. Just personally, my opinion is that the official story they gave us is kind of bunk. We just had 30,000 tons or 60,000 pounds of ammonium nitrate just go missing, and they say, oh, it might have come out the back of the train like a straight up an Acme cartoon where there's a hole in the barrel and the gunpowder was trailing all the way down the train tracks. I don't think that's true. I think something is going on right now. I think that's why the increase in all of the drills and everything else. But again, let's go over to Dex. You guys got my most of my opinion over on Marfoogle News, over on our short. But Dex, doesn't this seem a little strange, the timing? You would think they would already have this. And then some of the things they said.
You certainly would think that they have some form of backup communication, but they're coming out and saying that they're giving them these, but they're wrapping the whole narrative in this January event thing. And it's in addition to other stuff that they did to the buildings and to the safe locations, et cetera. But at the end of the day, this wouldn't have solved any problems that happened that day. If you're down in a basement, He's a sat phone. So this story doesn't make a lot of sense, in at least the cover story they're wrapping around it. Now, what does make sense is all of a sudden they all have a bunch of sat phones, and the way they wrapped it up, as you said, this 50 split makes it seem obvious that it's a political divide, and I think that's on purpose, because I think in reality this is probably some other reason, and probably something along the lines as we've talked about, which is preparation for either grid down, communications down, because at the end of the day, being stuck in a basement or hiding out, this isn't going to do you any good. This is going to do you good when you're outside, or you're able to get near a window or get to the outside and make use of communications when all other communications are down. No landlines, no cell phone access, no internet access. That leaves one last thing, and that will be a sat phone.
Now, we don't know which 50 senators who said that. Some said railroad. Somebody else said that's not going to work. These aren't going to work 5 stories down. Exactly. I mean, they're just not going to work. And if they're saying that they've made this beefed up security room for them to go in the event of another January type thing, how are these going to work down below? And they're saying it was directly related to, if something like this happens again, this is why we did it. They also have panic buttons. They have all this. I'm not buying it. For the government has to list these because they have direct access to a absolute satellite. So somewhere in the paperwork, this had to be put out there, and it would have got out to the public in one way or another. This way, I think that they get to wrap it in the way they want it to go out there. So if anybody asks any questions like, hey, all of these senators are now connected to one of these military satellites, and I believe it's a military satellite. It's not a civilian one. So if anything like that is connected, and these are able to directly connect to a certain satellite, I believe they would have some sort of trail there, and eventually that trail would get out, and maybe it would get out in a worse way. Now, I'm not saying that we have anything coming our way tomorrow or anything. But I will say this, I meant it when I said send this to family members. If you are somebody who is watching the show and somebody shared the show, understand that I don't say this lightly. We don't do this every day, and we don't say these things as far as to be able to, send this to your family members. I say this because with everything going on, all of the things that are happening, including the conflict in Russia and UKR, all of the events with NATO, how they are beefing up, and then all of the smaller tit for tats that are happening on a daily basis, this combined with, of course, where we're financially sitting right now, where we are culturally sitting right now with the country more divided than it's ever been, and of course with all of these smaller weird events like ammonium nitrate going missing, you have, of course, you have threats from at least 5 different countries. You've had attempts on the lives of several prime ministers and different folks, and some of them are even being possibly covered up. You have countries straight up saying that they want to take out certain people. And you have, of course, China threatening to take Taiwan. You have all of these things kind of adding up. Now, when you go back and you look at the things that we have talked about over years, most people are not going to pay attention to things like Operation Starfall. Operation Starfall is a bill that went in. It's still sitting there. It's waiting to be activated. This is a very specific operation. I'll read you what the operation entails. It says, not later than 45 days after the date of enactment of this act, the Secretary of the Air Force, in consultation with the Chief of Space Operations, shall develop and begin implementation of, quote, Operation Starfall, a strategic plan to deploy stratospheric balloons, aerostats, and satellite technology capable of rapidly delivering wireless internet anywhere on the planet from the stratosphere or higher. Now, mind you, everybody said, oh, this is for Cuba. At the time, Cuba had its internet shut down for its civilians. And everybody go, oh, they just did that for that. This is for general use around the planet. This is if any country. It doesn't have to be Cuba. It could be our own, or it could be a country that we go in and go to conflict with. It could bring satellite internet and communications to anywhere around the world. And how they would do it is they would launch these balloons much like a balloon that we saw come over our country, the Chinese balloon, only it would be ours, and we would have a ton of them. They last for a certain amount of time. Then when they come down, they even have a system where they would pick it up with the truck, basically refix it up, and then relaunch it, and they could keep doing this. This, I believe, has something to do with what is going to happen in the future. And, of course, it sat there. We've been checking on this since 2021, so it'll be interesting to see if this ever gets enacted. But I think it will be enacted, and it says not later than 45 days. The thing is Operation Starfall it already exists. This would just allow them to do it and to use it and to enact it. They say develop and begin implementation, but other commenters and experts said they already have this. They absolutely already have it. It would just be packaging it up and actually launching it. So Operation Starfall combined with you got senators being given sat phones in the case of emergency, and you really have to think about where would a sat phone be useful. Well, if somebody is coming in the building and you go 5 stories down to what they also said was part of their beefed up security, then these satellite phones are going to be absolutely useless. Okay, but what would it be good for? Dex, can you answer? What would satellite phones be good for if you're 5 stories down? I guess just period.
Yeah, nothing in 5 stories down, but out in the open, it would help them. It would give them a way to communicate. All right, that'd give them a line of communication, and this is definitely something that you would see deployed or used when there was no internet, no cell phone, and no landline potentially, and that would happen potentially in a cyber event, in a grid down scenario, and potentially in an EMP. But even with an EMP, I think the satellites themselves would be down, so all communications would go out.
And this is from Forbes, but you can find this in any other way. This talks about the Davos meeting that happened. The Davos is all of the craziest, most elite people in the world that are heads of almost every corporation you can think of every country met at Davos, including prime ministers. It's equivalent to the Bilderberg group. It is equivalent to that. But it is more business centric. It has a lot more business names in it, and a lot more cyber experts. They said they surveyed, and they found that 93% of the world's leading cyber experts said that we were likely to have the probability, because of what's going on, likely have a catastrophic cyber event in the next 2 years. And they said that it was they paraphrase. I paraphrase because they said it in a way. They said that it would hire the I don't want to misspeak because it did say that 93% of those surveyed believe that a catastrophic cyber event is likely in the next 2 years. Why in the next 2 years? That is why. Well, if you look at the actual situation with Russia, they keep saying that they're going to respond. They keep saying that we've went over red lines. We have gone over several red lines, and they haven't done anything. And most of us are like, oh yeah, these red lines don't mean anything. Well, if it is true that they are losing, which a lot of folks do not believe, if it is true that they're getting backed into the corner and they're getting humiliated and they may actually lose this conflict, well, then that's even worse, because that means NATO infrastructure defeated them and pushed them back to the point where they lost, and they're not fighting UKR. If you're smart and common sense, you know that they would have already been defeated if UKR would have been defeated if they didn't get any help from NATO. NATO gave them all of their tanks, all of their anti-air, all of their anti-defense systems. They gave them, now they're going to be giving them F-16 soon. They gave them all their tanks. So, and they gave them a ton of volunteers. I mean, like, you have experts and specialists. You know that you have U.S. Navy specialists. You have Marine specialists there. You have all sorts of folks, and you even have some that are perishing. And they say, "Oh, well, they actually went AWOL from the special forces to be there and to go volunteer there, and that's why they got knocked out there. They were volunteering." Yet they did what's illegal, which went AWOL from, in one case, Navy SEALs. So a Navy SEAL, one of the most respectable kind of positions in the Navy, went AWOL from our military to go fight over there and to volunteer. It just didn't make too much sense. Now, there would be a motive to hide if any kind of American or people from other country are perishing there, because that would be an American citizen getting taken out by Russia directly. That would be a escalation to a world war. So there's kind of a motivation there to say that they may be volunteering, and they could have been. But that's been happening ever since that day. We've, I think, covered 4 or 5 of these kind of guys getting knocked out there. So point being is there's a lot going on over there. And whether they're winning or losing, either way has kind of the end of the road situation where it's not good. This catastrophic event that they're talking about, they are preparing for it. And that's what freaks me out, is the fact that there are all of these drills heavily centered towards a grid down, an EMP, or to a catastrophic cyber event where we do not have our internet and our TV and all of that and all the medias that we are totally take for granted. On top of this, you have China accidentally cutting underwater cables from islands in Taiwan. And of course, that means when that happens, you go, oh man, what about our cables? Well, at the same time, they've been watching, and there have been ships circling it, and there have been submarines near it that they've had to chase away. If our underlying water cables get cut from here to Europe, we're in a really tight spot, especially if everything else goes out at the same time. We are at a very huge precipice here, and I think that it is all about to come very apparent. And I'm not going to be able to have a chance to tell you that if all of this happens. That's the thing. You need to get this warning out before it happens, because when it does happen, there will be no Marfoogle TV. There will be no YouTube. There won't be anything, at least for a while, until they get it up again. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I believe that this is something that is going to happen. And so are the folks that I've talked to in the military. We had over 500 active. Now we have close to over 1,000, possibly 1,100 active military members in our audience. I think with what they have said, I believe that most people believe that this is definitely going to happen. Now, that's not to scare you. It may not even affect all of us. It may only affect certain areas. It may be regional. We don't know yet. But on the other hand, there's people that are basically saying, oh, well, it could happen. I have said this for years, but again, I think that there's too many signs pointing towards this. So people really should have a basic plan. It doesn't mean the world is ending, which most people, if the internet and the phones went down, that is the end of the world for some, but not for me. With all of these things going on, and then randomly, the ammonium nitrate going missing, they still don't have a solid answer for that. It's just absolutely terrifying. So make sure to please have a basic family plan of where you would meet, what you would do, and start learning now. Again, learn how to do things. Learn the things that you would need. You're not going to have a Google or a DuckDuckGo if things hit the fan. All right, and then we'll touch on this. We're gonna circle back because there's more stuff in later news that's actually gonna bring this right back in. This is like, it's really starting to come together now. Mind you, if you follow every day all of the old school Foogle fam, you guys already know. So please tell your neighbors and the people that are next to you in chat, tell them about some of the things you've actually put together on this, because there's more. There's so much more. And then U.S. bomb designed to hit targets like Iran underground nuclear sites briefly reappears amid tensions. Dex, do you want to cover this one?
So this is interesting. They put the GBU 57, which is also known as the MOP, or the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Many of us may know it as the Bunker Buster, but they put it on display. They basically made sure it was made known. They showed pictures, photographs revealing some of it, and all of this is really more of a symbolism for the I country. I ran over to the store, and they're trying to insinuate that that's their deep underground nuclear facilities are going to potentially be a target of this. So, we've talked quite a bit extensively about how their adversary over in the ME, has said they will go in and take out their ability to produce nuclear weapons. Even if the U.S. doesn't help them, they're still going to do it. That's been their mission. We've seen numerous small-scale things happen over there, mysterious events, mysterious explosions and fires and other things that, for the most part, you would write off as probably done by to try to stop them. But this is potentially the, last ditch weapon, if you want to call it that, to go in deep into the ground to try to take that out. Now, the big question, and I guess we'll talk about it next, is would it even work?
Well, and again, something like this, it's like I'm sure most of our enemies have things like this too. I wonder how 5 stories underneath would even hold up against this. Also, all of the different meetings that they have been doing, it seems so odd. And then Iran nuclear site deep underground challenges West as talks on reviving atomic deal have stalled. Near a peak of the Zagros Mountains in central Iran, workers are building a nuclear facility so deep in the earth that it is likely beyond the range of the last-ditch U.S. weapon designed to destroy such sites, according to the experts and satellite imagery analyzed by the AP. It says the photos and videos from Planet Labs PBC show Iran has been digging tunnels in the mountain near the Natanz nuclear site, which has come under repeated sabotage attacks amid Tehran's standoff with the West over its atomic program. With Iran now producing uranium close to weapons-grade levels after the collapse of its nuclear deal with world powers, the installation complicates the West's efforts to halt Tehran from potentially developing an atomic bomb as diplomacy over its nuclear program remains stalled. Now, I want to add in, there's the DHS list too, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but the DHS list of things that they needed personal radiation detectors, they needed a broadband system that could work if all of the cell phone towers were down. They also wanted a cell phone attachment that could actually detect radiation. They have all sorts of things that they wanted to do. Rapidly deployable checkpoints. This is something they needed by a very strict deadline. Now you have Iran, which they say can now make nukes. Is this part of it? Is the I country the whole big threat right now that everybody's giving sat phones out for? Because frankly, I don't believe the whole another January thing. I just don't. Do you? I don't think that's why they're getting sat phones, is just in case somebody comes in the building and they all go down 5 stories and they all call their mom or something. I don't know what they would do with it. Like, hey, we're in here. Like people wouldn't know that they were in there or something. Like if they're all together. Is it for them individually at their house? Why would they need it at their house? Right? Unless, wait, are they going to go outside and put up a jammer and cut off their internet phone and all of that? It's a very specific reason why they would need satellite phones. And I don't think it's because they're going to be in a bunker 5 stories underneath the ground. I just don't. But also, at this same point, over the last few months, it's like they knew that this was coming as far as this country being able to complete nukes. And now, on top of their underground missile base that they've recently shown us, on top of all of the animated films literally threatening to take out our prez, shared by the literal Ayatollah on Twitter himself. On top of all of this, now they're digging a big old bunker for specifically their nuclear activities. It says completion of such a facility would be a nightmare scenario that risks igniting a new escalatory spiral, warned Kelsey Davenport, the director of non-proliferation policy at the Washington-based Arms Control Association. Given how close Iran is to a bomb, it has very little room to ratchet up its program without tripping U.S. and Israeli red lines. So at this point, any further escalation increases the risk of conflict. Now, this is completely separate, which is going on with Russia, China, Taiwan, and UK, and of course all of NATO and the Baltic states and everything else. Not on top of the deadline that we are hitting financially, on top of everything else that's going on. This is now yet another thing rising to the very top, like oil on water. And then just over half of mainland Chinese people back full-scale war to take control of Taiwan, poll finds. Dex, so half, and by the way, we don't know how accurate their surveys are because, well, they're attached to their social security number, and if you say the wrong thing, you might just be have a target on your back, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. You can't say the wrong thing, and I don't know how the survey is actually taken, but 55% are in favor of quote unquote launching a unification conflict to take back Taiwan entirely. So that's greater than, according to the study, it's greater than 50%. It's 55%. It's a significant sign from, or at least to their leadership that, hey, look, we have the country behind us, even though they may be behind them because they know they have to be behind them, otherwise they'll be in trouble. But it is, take it for what it's worth. But that is pretty significant. I think it might be a lot lower, even if people were against it. I don't know if it wouldn't be extremely low, but it would definitely be under the 50% range, I would feel in my mind, even if people there had sentiment against it and some were willing to actually say it.
And Dex, you might want to check your internet connection. It keeps cutting out. But as far as the 55%, they could put this number out. China could, and if they do take further actions, then they will be doing it stating that, oh, well, we did this survey and most people wanted this. So we're doing what, the people support us in this way. More people support it than don't. And then there was, a third that said that they were unsure. So the majority, according to their study of 1,800 people, said that they were in approval. And of course, 1,800 people, that's less than what's in chat right now. Think about it. If I asked you guys, hey, should we go to war with Russia? And you gave an answer and we were like, okay, cool. It sounds like we're going to do it. I mean, over half of you want to do it. If it does happen, that would be kind of a freak thing. I just think it's funny that they put this out there, like, it's kind of like now they can say that it's in support. Why? I don't know. Why even do it, right? They don't care what their people think. If they cared about what their people think, they wouldn't, quell any kind of dissent or any kind of protest. People think, oh, they protested with the white papers and that's why all of those restrictions are gone. I think it's a much more nefarious reason why that happened, and I think that was almost kind of set up there. But that's just my opinion. What's yours? Let me know in the comments down below. And then real quick, I do want to say thank you. Thank you, A. Shell. Thank you. A. Shell. I appreciate that. Thank you for the back-to-back super sticker and the super chat. Thank you. You are amazing. Well, thank you, A. Shell. I appreciate that. And then Liz Potter. I don't know. I think I got you last show, but thank you. And then Christine Miles says, thanks for reporting this today. Made me realize preps are lacking. Also see Dutch with weather satellites showing military systems. So I did see that briefly. That is pretty crazy. So apparently on the weather radar, you can see military systems kind of bouncing around. So I thought that was, weather satellites showing military positions. Something is up. Now, a couple people mentioned MonkeyWorks. I have not gotten a chance to watch what MonkeyWorks has been saying about all this. But a bunch of people said, like, MonkeyWorks 100. I have not watched his sit reps or anything lately. The last one I saw was when all of those weird flights and Sky Kings were going out. So if you guys have information that we don't know, let us know. I'd love to hear what's going on with the flight radars. I know something is definitely going on right now. And then hello from Seattle, says Caitlin Sweat. Thank you, and thank you. I appreciate that. And what's going on, local? And then have to watch later, but sending much love to Fugle fam. Zenwen AZ, that's okay. And thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for saying hi. Zenwen AZ, thank you for making it almost to every show. All right, and then Elon Musk gets blowback from Taiwan after saying there's a certain inevitability China will integrate it. Yeah, you could think. And by the way, Elon's second largest manufacturing is done in China. They are his number 2 customer. So, and he's also kind of bowed down to them a couple times, said congratulations on things that people are like, oh, okay, basically congratulated the CCP. It says the official policy of China is that Taiwan should be integrated, Musk said in an interview with CNBC's David Faber. It says one does not need to read between the lines. One can simply read the lines. There's a certain inevitability to the situation. It says in China, the state-controlled China Daily ran with the headline, Elon Musk, Taiwan should be integrated. On Friday in Taiwan, Foreign Minister Joseph Wu tweeted a response to the Tesla CEO, writing that the Chinese Communist Party's bullying and threats are a concern, especially for those who would rather stay free and democratic. Wu added that China's expansionist policy violates rules-based international order and the status quo. It says, Mr. Elon Musk, other than money, there is something we call values. China considers Taiwan to be its territory, despite the fact that Taiwan is democratic and self-governed, and has threatened to use force if necessary to gain control of it. Taiwan, meanwhile, is home to the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC, the world's maker of computer chips by volume. Legendary investor Warren Buffett this week dumped the rest of Berkshire Hathaway's $4 billion stake in TSMC. Now remember, he dumped a huge chunk of it. Now he's gotten rid of the rest of it. Dex, did you caught that it says the rest of it, right? So it was only last week or something where he dumped a big chunk of it, and people were like, well, he didn't dump all of it. Now he did.
He didn't dump all of it. He didn't have much left, but yeah, he's definitely out, it looks like.
He's completely out of it. What does that say to you? This, again, is another flag that people should be looking at. It's waving in your face. Something is about to go down. It says he told Japan's Nikkei last month that the threat of war was a consideration in dumping the bulk of the stake. And that was last week, right? That was last month. Told that, and that was a bulk. Now he's gotten rid of the rest. So when you see something like this, now, remember, this guy's a human, and he probably has a big ego because everybody calls him the legendary investor. So if he gets it, he must be going on some solid information. He's not going to do this and everybody goes, oh, TSMC just went up $50,000 and you dumped your stuff before it did. No. And why would he dump it? If this is something that is going to be moving forward, he obviously sees it's not going to be moving forward, or at least not the way that it is right now. He is an egotistical man. He is the legendary investor. He's doing this not because he's psychic. He's not getting some sort of psychic feeling or something, or he's just so good at analyzing. He knows people. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And this guy knows everybody who is anybody in the finance world. There's something also called insider trading. He might have been lucky in the beginning, but I tell you what, he is not lucky anymore. He buys his insider trading tips at this point. I'm pretty sure about that. If you look at his circle of friends, it's all of the people in the know. So if they're in the know about something like this and you get out, that technically is called insider trading. So I guarantee it will never be admitted. It says last November, Citadel CEO Ken Griffin said America was utterly and totally dependent on the Taiwanese for modern semiconductors. Mind you, these are used in everything from cars to your cell phones to everything. Everything you can imagine. An average car has over 160 of these inside of it. You don't have power seats without one of these things. The billionaire hedge fund added that if we lose access to Taiwanese semiconductors, the hit to U.S. GDP is probably in the order of magnitude of 5 to 10%. It's an immediate Great Depression. You wonder why Jack Dorsey, ex-CEO of Twitter, on his way out said, hyperinflation is coming ... soon. It's like these guys all know this. That's why they're pulling their cards. That's why they're doing fire sales and selling their stuff and moving things around. And by the way, just a few weeks ago, month ago, you had the New York Stock Exchange have a glitch where it appeared that all of this stuff was getting traded all at once. It was almost like everybody got told something all at once. And then all these stocks started moving so much volume that they were like, whoa, we gotta, it's a glitch. And they said it appeared that way. But I'm not so sure that wasn't the actual case. Dex, do you remember that? That's another thing that was just, did they ever solve that? Or Did the narrative ever clear that up, what that glitch was with the New York Stock Exchange?
No, I have not heard that there's been any further information about any of the quote unquote glitches. New York Stock Exchange being one, multiple instances with the FAA and other traffic control systems, and the airline systems, their own personal systems. We've seen numerous of these quote unquote glitches, and never have we gotten any update on them.
Yeah, either it's a glitch, either they were actually dumping a bunch of stocks, or that was some sort of cyber hack to part of our financial infrastructure. This is getting to be the point where if you don't see this, then I feel like you're one of these people that's literally just kind of in their echo chamber thinking, oh, what does the news tell me to be worried about today? The thing is when the news talks about it, people worry about it. The people here, we look at this all the time because we know it doesn't go away along with the headlines. The headlines will go away for a couple weeks. They'll be talking about Johnny Depp's court case or something. But during these times, there's always something going on in the back. And that's what we pay attention to here. We always follow all of the back page stuff. And if you have followed the same stuff we would, there would be no way that you wouldn't be admitting to yourself right now that things look really, really bad. It's not being a pessimist. It's being realist. And it's also being prepared for something so you don't get hit in the side of the head. We have had several horrible, crazy events in our lifetime. And guess what? CV, if somebody would have told you, hey, the whole world's going to shut down, you would say, that's the worst thing ever possible. That's BS. It's never going to happen. Well, it happened. And we did get through it. So the next event that happens, it won't be as bad as you think, but I guarantee you it will change how we live. And most of us will probably survive, but that doesn't mean it's not coming. And these things are now, the stone is gathering moss and it is rolling down the hill faster and faster and faster. And that's putting aside all of the kind of tinfoil hat stuff that, we're coming into 2024 now, 2025. It's like there's however many prophecies, like 50 different prophecies that line up for 2024 and 2025, and natural events like the peak of solar cycle 25. There's definitely something here, and we don't have our thumb on it yet, but you can pretty much see with common sense that it is definitely getting crazy. Let's see here. Thank you over on DLive, by the way. Company 328. Thank you for the Ninjagini. Appreciate you. Thank you, Beer Juice. Aunt Jenny. Company 328 again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kiki Gray. Chance Paladin. Sniffles 711. Renegade Petey. Hazel 2020. Thank you. I really do appreciate that as well. And then Laura Griffith. Thank you for, of course, being here. And then Beer Juice, thanks for gifting out badges. Speaking of badges, thank you everybody that ended up just getting a badge today. Ferris and Edith Ismaili, thank you for joining the fam and grabbing yourself a Marfoogle badge. And then Bobby Sue Fry, thank you. Machina Opus, Warren G just got their Marfoogle badge. Zushi Katamoto, Chosen One, Sapphire, Tree Hookers, One Up Shelf LLC, Chris G, Betty DeMyers, Texas Twister, and Peter Kurkowski. Not to forget, of course, Be Real Beast, WIS Jen, and Lost Lobo. Thank you. Ross Jones, I think you got thrown in there too. Baby Guns and King's Child over the last week. Thank you guys. I appreciate your support, and thank you for supporting Independent. Now, all right, and let's see here. All right, before we move on, make sure to go over and check it out. If you don't have yourself lined up with extra prep food, this is a really good way to do so. Again, go over to marfugglenews.com/prep. You can get 25-year shelf life freeze-dried foods that are all packaged to last. Again, this is freeze-dried, means they take all of the water molecules out of it. It seals in a Mylar bag, and it can last over 2 decades. This is really great because, one, it lasts 25 years. Two, it doesn't take up much space for how much food you actually get out of it because it reduces all of the, basically it's kind of like a vacuum seal that takes all of the water and it takes half the size out. But three, this is something that doesn't have to be for an SHTF or the end of the world. This will be good for any regional disaster, any earthquake, any hurricane, any storm, any power outages, blackout, or even flood. So again, the 3-month actually comes in sealed buckets on top of being sealed in Mylar bags. So it's really great. You can keep it in your basement or keep it, again, somewhere safe where you have it ready to go. Now, freeze-dried food, this has gone up, 3 times in the last, it's tripled in price in the last 3 years. So if you do get this today rather than, next year or the next, in 3 years from now, if this triples in price, you'll still have 22 years left on the shelf, and you will, of course, still have yourself a huge supply of food. So it's better to get it yesterday than tomorrow. So again, make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/prep. A part of that not only gives you a huge discount or a huge chunk of freebies. In this case, I believe it's still $200 worth of free gear, gadgets, and survival gear. Otherwise, it also helps us as well. Go to marfooglenews.com/prep. Appreciate it. Thank you for supporting Independent by going through any of our affiliates. And then, Dex, do you want to go into UKR is losing 10,000 drones a month to Russian electronic warfare systems?
Well, this is a staggering number. Of course, we have to take all of this with a grain of salt. If it's true, though, that's a pretty staggering number. But even more so, it's staggering in the sense that this electronic warfare is becoming such a critical, as they call it, critical component of Russia's tactics. So they're using new technology to disable, disorient, and even potentially completely disrupt these drones and making them ineffective. And they're saying that up to 10,000 a month. Now, mind you, these are cheap and expensive drones. These aren't the really, really big U.S. expensive drones that we fly. These are more the smaller, you might even call them disposable drones that are being flown, but they are taking them out in mass, and they're doing it in mass with electronic capabilities. And I know we talked just recently in one of our shows about new tech that we were testing and successfully tested it against drone swarms like that as well. So it just brings to light the innovation that is happening, brings to light how this new technology is actually working and even being used in real time on the battlefield.
And when you're talking about 10,000 drones, somebody had they said holy that's how most people react when they see that, and that's 10,000 drones bought and paid for most likely by our tax dollars. That's pretty crazy. And then Russian deputy minister dies after slamming fascist invasion of UKR. A senior Russian lawmaker who reportedly critical of the invasion of UKR perished over the weekend, the Russian government confirmed in the latest unexpected finality of a prominent figure since the conflict began. In a statement, Russia's Ministry of Science and Higher Education confirmed that Deputy Science Minister Pyotr Kochichenko perished on Saturday. It says the ministry said he became ill while on board a plane carrying Russian delegates home after a business trip to Cuba. Now, one thing here, they're saying that he's critical of it. You know what else could happen too is UKR could take this guy out and make this happen. Now, why would they take out several people that are actually against this? Well, one narrative that has been really strong, and it might be the true, very absolute narrative, is that Vlad basically throws everybody off a roof. And again, most of these, I have said, a lot of these guys are just falling off rooftops or falling out of hotel windows 160 stories high, right? But Dex, did you ever think, because we cover a lot of these, right? There's Russian officials, high-ranking guys who end up perished. Well,
it's a laundry list.
It makes them look, though, as if, it does make, what do we think when we see that? We're like, these guys are paranoid. They're just taking out their own people. They're savages. We look at him like a Kim Jong-un type of thing, right? That's how that's our view of him.
Certainly.
That could be portrayed by UKR too, by taking out the same guys. Like, why would somebody who's says, "Oh, I don't like this invasion," and then he goes up missing? It also could be some 4D chess kind of thing.
Yeah, certainly, it does paint that picture. Like it paints the picture every time we turn around. There's another dissenter who is just perishing out, from, like you said, falling off of a rooftop, mysteriously dying in an automobile accident. All sorts of events have gone on. This is a laundry list. There's a lot of people that have fit this mold and are no longer here. And it certainly could be something that's being created on the opposite side to create that narrative that it makes them look bad. But on the other hand, it could actually be that that's the MO, because, by the way, it's been the MO when they were the Soviet Union with the KGB and others. So it's been the MO to take out dissent like that as well.
Either way you look at it, the people are just going missing, and they say I got, and that's the funniest. Well, not funny, but he got ill while on board a plane carrying Russian delegates home after a business trip to Cuba. Who knows? Cuba could have put something in his drink. The flight made an emergency landing in southern Russia, but doctors couldn't save him. So it literally happened on the flight home. Sounds sketch, right? Either Russia took him out, Cuba took him out, or UKR. And then UKR pulls out of all but insignificant sliver of Bakhmut, pivots to encircling Russian forces. Wait, Dex, this headline is kind of a bit. I mean, isn't this a little backwards from what they said just a couple days ago?
Yeah, we are now reversing everything they said a week ago, which was they were making progress and Russia was pulling back. And what's his name, the head of the Wagner Group, was saying, "Oh yeah, we don't have the forces. We're not getting anywhere, and their offensive has started." And now it's completely flipped around. So either it's a sign that Russia put a lot of troops in and made significant headway, or we're actually getting a version of the narrative that's the complete opposite of what we were told.
And they're saying that, but UKR forces continue their advances on the northern and southern flanks of Bakhmut and are close to, quote, close to tactically encircling the city. Tactically. I feel like this word is tactically being used. Tactically. And it says allow it to defend vital supply lines. It says if they do get control of high ground around Bakhmut, it will allow them. It sounds like they've literally taken Bakhmut, and they're now going to go outside of it and go, oh, we see them there. Pop. Don't know. But nothing is as it seems. And then Kremlin says Putin has been informed of incursion into Belgorod Oblast. Why does this make a big deal? Well, because it is, of course, the Belgorod Oblast. It says the Russian president's press secretary Dmitry Peskov says Vladimir Putin has been informed of the breach of the Russian border in Belgorod Oblast. Dex, this isn't the... Did they do the 50-mile trench by Belgorod? Or is that something else? I know that Belgorod's also this... Isn't that the submarine, too? The name of the submarine?
Yeah, that's the name of the submarine. I'll have to double check where the trench was located. It might be in that general area as well. But, this, again, is that narrative of the offensive. They were saying that they went across the border and they were pushing in. And they were pushing into Belgorod. And apparently coming out of Russia is acknowledgement that that's happening. And there's a quote from them saying, and Peskov says, the UKR saboteurs, they're going to stamp them out from the territory of Russia, meaning that they're in there. So there's got to be a little bit of truth to this. There's some truth to this because we're getting it from both sides.
So what they're saying is Peskov said that the work is underway to stamp out the UKR saboteurs from the territory of Russia and destroy them. He believes that the, quote, sabotage is aimed at diverting attention from the Bakhmut front in order to minimize the political impact of the loss of Bakhmut. Both sides seem like they're kind of confirming that Bakhmut is pretty much been taken here. So we'll see what happens here. And real quick, remind you, if you do want to protect yourself, go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. They now have the EMP Shield Micro. This will just be a quick one. If we are going to have some sort of event as far as EMP and CME are the most likely. CME is a guaranteed. It's just a matter of time, but it's a matter of like, will we have our grid, upkept by the time and upgraded by the time the next Carrington level event happens. Go over to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This can protect your vehicles and pretty much everything that you can think of against an EMP or a CME. This is the same protection that and company that actually protects DOD, DHS agencies, and things like that. They have done work with DHS, DOD, and of course the DEMSO team on the Texas DEMSO team. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. And then at Bilderberg's Bigwig Bash, two things are guaranteed: Kissinger and secrecy. Dex, what happened here?
Well, it's not like we're getting a lot of details coming out of that meeting. That meeting is highly secretive. The most that they do is provide us with bullet-pointed agenda and a list of potential attendees. And I imagine there's other attendees that don't even make it on that list that are probably there. But what is fascinating is the correlation of how many people in this group were intelligence officials. They were saying that, and this is why they called it that was because Kissinger is very highly regarded with the intelligence community. So they said that JB had sent the director of national intelligence, Avril Haines, his senior director for strategic planning at the National Security Council, Thomas Wright, a shadowy gaggle of White House strategists and spooks, among them Jen Easterly, the director of cybersecurity and infrastructure security agency, amongst many others. They were basically drawing a picture here that there were a ton of spies, if you want to call it that, or spooks or intelligence community type people at this meeting. So that can give you a little insight. Aside from the fact that we talked about AI being front and center, it was their top bullet point on their agenda. Of course, the OpenAI CEO was going to be there. They also had some other tech people there, like Eric Schmidt from Google and others. So yes, we don't get a lot of details, but this is an interesting spin where they sort of looked at it and said, look, there's a lot of intelligence officials here. So what can we glean from that?
And it says, of course, it's the focus of a lot of conspiracy theory gossip, but above all, the 69th Berg Conference at the glorious Pristina Palace appeared like a council of war. I mean, the signs are everywhere that we're headed towards something very unhappy. UK's foreign minister hadn't come to Lisbon because he loves the happy clatter of trams, and the supreme allied commander of Europe wasn't there for the clustered tarts, which was a shame because they're excellent. I guess they can't risk dusting them with cinnamon in Henry Kissinger's presence, because one sneeze might be enough to carry him off to his reward. On the eve of Kissinger's centenary, the former U.S. Secretary of State and longtime Bilderberg kingpin will be delighted, or whatever dull ache he feels instead of delight, to see so many U.S. intelligence officials at this year's meeting. It says they're Kissinger's kinds of people. Everybody was there. National intelligence. I mean, if you look at the list that was even... The public list is crazy, and that doesn't name everybody. It doesn't have all of the, I forget what they call them. The Catholics? They have a funky word for the people that the people bring. So they also can bring a certain type of person with them. They can bring a guest if it's approved. So they were all bringing these other friends or people in the circle to bring into it. And then those people, according to the rumor I heard, is that they can be a part of future Berg groups. So it's like an initiation type of thing. Like, to be one, ask one, right? Something like that. And then Jeffrey EpiPen threatened to expose Mr. Gates in 2010 affair with Russian bridge player. Jeffrey EpiPen threatened to expose Billy. And it says, after he refused to participate in a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund with J.P. Morgan. all this crazy stuff with JP Morgan too. Jeffrey EpiPen used his knowledge of Gates' 10 affair with the Russian bridge player to threaten the Microsoft billionaire, a bombshell new report claims. It says the pedo who took his own life in 2019 somehow while on watch, and there's no video footage of it, and it happened in a highly secure prison, and all of the video was deleted, and all of the logs, and even the 911 call was disappeared. But, wanted Gates to invest in a multi-billion-dollar charitable fund back in 2013, but he would not oblige. You know what's even crazier about the EpiPen thing is like some of the mainstream media out there, like this is the things that they're putting out. People know that this guy was part of the highest up kind of scandals you could ever see, but then they call it conspiracy, right? This guy was connected with all of these different people, and even high-ranking officials and their wives. I think it was McCain's wife that just said, oh yeah, everybody knew what he was doing. Everybody knew about this. And it's like, and they really think that, everybody knows. It's like an unspoken fact. That's why the whole hashtag went crazy. Like, he didn't take himself out, right? It's crazy to think that he was in a highly secure jail on watch, and I think they said that he, like 10 minutes before or an hour before, he was off of it or something. But essentially how he was able to take his own life in that jail like that, and every single person on this planet, I have not seen anybody, no matter what side they're on, say, oh yeah, it's crazy he did that. Everybody it pretty much thinks that this thing was done. So how powerful do you have to be to get somebody taken out in a jail and not get caught? At least not have it like where one of these people eventually gets caught, or they found out that a guard helped something or this or that. You have to be so high up that you're above jail systems. You have to be above the law to be able to do something like this. This isn't even like a bank robbery. This is crazier than that, because this is one of the most watched and surveilled places ever. They did all of these things like straight out of a movie. I'm surprised they haven't made a movie about this yet. Or if they have, it hasn't gotten coverage. It says EpiPen later sent him an email implying that he was aware of his affair with bridge player Mila Antonova, and that he could reveal his infidelity, according to the report in the Wall Street Journal. And people still think he took himself out? He was threatening the same guy that over the last few years has become extremely powerful, if you haven't noticed. The same guy that was basically involved in every step of the way, who has Chinese president and oligarchs from China come and eat dinner at his house. Imagine where you're in a spot where the presidents want to come over to your home. This guy, and of course everybody knows he's got his hands in everything. So people are looking here and here and here. They're looking at JB like he's some sort of the mastermind. I think, you know what I think about JB? Is I think JB was a perfect candidate because they had things on him. If you haven't noticed, anything goes wrong, they can kind of push the stuff up with his family member up, and then all of a sudden things just get done. Things get signed. I don't know. It seems like maybe what if he is kind of a, politician, whatever, 50 years in it, but he's also, he had a weak spot and they knew what his weak spot was. So he's basically, Go ahead, Dex.
Do you remember when Gilly Bates was talking in one of the first interviews when he was mentioning EpiPen, and he said he made the insinuation, well, now he's perished, and he did it with like a coy look on his face, and everybody was sort of like, whoa, was he saying that because that it was something that they had put in place? I'm not suggesting that that's what this is from a proof point of view, but the point here is it's very clear that part of EpiPen's gig was to hold a lot of information against people and use that information against them to get what he wanted.
Well, but that makes you think, like, why would anybody go there? If he might, EpiPen must have started doing this after a long time. And it was probably when he first got arrested the first time or something, and then he started holding things over his head. Or when was the first time he was arrested? In 2012 or 2009, 8? Can we look that up? Because it seems like, if you're that kind of person, or if you did what this guy does, nobody's going to trust you if you're going to rat him out, right?
2006.
Okay. So after that, maybe then less people started coming. Maybe then he started blackmailing people with the information that he had. And it would kind of make sense because some of the people that went there after that, maybe they were going there for some sort of, I don't know. Some of the names don't make sense, but most of them do. Mostly men in power that would go to his island, dozens and dozens of time. I don't think that they do all that trip so they can, play water polo and then go to a demonic temple and, play a bridge game or something. Do you guys remember the clip that Dex is mentioning? It went around, and this is way before this news broke. And he said, well, that's kind of why he's not here, huh? Or something, like the way he said it. Do you guys remember this? Tell people in the chat how creepy it was. We'll have to find that clip, Dex. That is so creepy now thinking about this. And he gave a smirk after talking about how he's not around. I don't even want to talk about it. This guy's from Seattle. I gotta go. Scary stuff. A mystery buyer just purchased entire California ghost town, Eagle Mountain, for $22.5 million. It says a road diverges in the Yellow Flats along the outer rim of the Joshua Tree National Park. The 2 lanes in the middle of Desert peel off of Interstate 10, about an hour and a half from Palm Springs. They break at the entrance to Eagle Mountain, a ghost town in the California desert that has attracted continuous attention since its untimely end in 1983. Unlike other California ghost towns, Eagle Mountain never truly died. Now an unknown buyer has purchased the town to add to a new chapter of its storied history. Dex, this is so weird. I have never been here, but if you have, let me know in the chat. Dex, this is, do they have people still living there? Or is it truly a ghost town?
I think it's truly a ghost town. It did rise up a little bit and actually have a population at one point, and then it dwindled back down. I think it was around mining. But now the biggest mystery is who's actually behind the purchase and why. What are they doing? Are they going to start mining again? There was an insider that sort of under anonymity gave a little bit of information, but the information they gave was just that there had been for sale signs up and it had been purchased, and there was an LLC that has absolutely no information behind it that has now purchased this place. So we don't have any nefarious information or any other things. There's some pictures and you can sort of look through and see how ghostly it looks. But at the same time, it's very questionable. Like, why are they buying this and for that amount of money?
It looks like this looks like a fireman's training facility or something. What was this area? You could use this for military training, that's for sure. You got definitely a couple shooting ranges you could fit in there. But this looks spooky. I wish I would have. I wonder if they're going to close this off. Yeah, and it does say, trespassers and buyers aware. A few foremen live on the premises full time to keep watch over Eagle Mountain. Verdant palm trees poke out from the street they live on, while the rest of the town remains preserved by dust. One night in the stillness, the foreman heard trespassers in the dark. The sound of a shotgun blast into the sky scared them off. So essentially, and it was owned by Kaiser before. It looks like a subsidiary of Kaiser Ventures Inc., right? I bet if you look that up, you'll find some funky connections. But the new company, they literally named it Eagle Mountain, assertion, or what is it? It said something. Basically, they named the company Eagle, let's see. It was just right there, too. Eagle. They literally named it like Eagle Mountain Assertion LLC.
Yeah, it was sold by Eagle Mountain Acquisition LLC to Ecology Mountain Holdings LLC. Both of them were kind of hiding, but at least they knew that the first one was had some sort of ties to ownership through Kaiser, I believe.
Well, I want to know, is this being turned into some sort of super bunker or something? It looks like the kind of place you would do it. All dirt, dust, desert, and nobody around. Or they could be doing something funky over there. I don't know. But it is spooky. Make sure to go check out marfooglenews.com/energy. This is our recommendation for a power generator as far as a solar power generator. The energy systems are built like tanks. And, of course, now they are even more built like a tank. Now they actually have the Flex Tactical, which is they actually helped design it with the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory. So they are directly working with the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory to make the Flex Tactical. So this company is really up there as far as quality. This is the good stuff. So the one thing about this is it's going to be reliable in an SHTF situation. This is not a cheap generator. This is top of the line, and it is also expandable. The Flex 15 Tactical, that is like, it's almost overkill for most people. I would highly recommend that for people in cold temperatures or dusty temperatures or possibly wet temperatures. It actually has water resistance as well. But most people can get away with the Flex 1500, the regular expandable flagship system, because this can be expanded. It can turn into whatever system you want it to. If you want it to be a whole house system, or if you want it to be a portable system that you can throw in your truck, even if you have it set up to be a whole house system, you can literally unlatch the top two with a battery or two and then handle and take it away with you and, go power it in the woods, take it with you in your work truck and power tools. That's what's so sweet about this. And it gets its power. Either you can charge it as a battery bank from a wall if you have a grid, or you can charge it from solar panels from the sun. You can also even charge it from your car if you're mobile. So this is a really awesome system as far as having solar power. It's a real beneficial thing, especially when you don't have $5 a gallon for gas. Again, this is really, once you have it, then you really have quite a good setup. It's unlimited power as long as you have sun, and even overcast days. A lot of people think that they can't do solar if they live somewhere like I do. Even on overcast days, you will still get power. You'll just get a little bit less. You can still get burnt in the overcast sun, so I don't know why people think that you can't get power from it. Go to marfooglenews.com/energy and make sure to use the code Marfoogle because you will get a savings. These are, again, top-of-the-line units. They also have different sorts of kinds. Now they have the X2. The X2 is actually the portable built-in one. This one is also really awesome. This, you can expand, but you can dual link it. So this is actually a really perfect unit for either RVers or for anybody who is doing van life. These are perfect. This is a great scenario for that. And then, of course, this is actually good for anybody that wants a portable generator that can go anywhere, and it actually has a higher battery capacity than, say, one Flex 1500 battery. So make sure to go over and check it out. That's a UPS system right out of the box, so it's uninterrupted power supply. In that case, basically, if your fridge is plugged into this is plugged into the wall. Then when the power goes out, if the lights go out, your power goes out, it will switch the fridge right over to this immediately. So go over to marfooglenews.com/energy. That's marfooglenews.com/energy. Going back to the main point here, and with everything that is happening right now, people, you can look at like Elon says, you can read between the lines, or you can just straight up read the lines. The lines are here. The lines are here, very clear to see. There are changes being made, and they always have some sort of, oh, calm down, it's totally fine. It's, oh, no, it's because of this. In this case, this satellite phone story does not make sense, and most people's common sense saw right through it. If you look at the actual responses to this, even after somebody posted all of the, oh, well, CBS says it's because of this and because of J6 and this and that, people just tore apart. The guy got ratioed like I've never seen before. And this is on both sides. People are like, no, that just doesn't make sense. So go look. I mean, this has already got almost 6 million views in a few hours. This is definitely a hot story. Disclosed TV is a big account, but they shared the CBS story, and this is going nuts. So people definitely think this is odd. So don't be feeling like you're crazy because you find this weird. People are going to tell you, oh, well, it's just because of this. Guess what? That story does not make sense. And if you do read the lines, not between the lines, just see the lines straight up, it most definitely looks like they are preparing for something. I don't care if you call me crazy or a fearmonger or whatever else you want to call me. This is what I think. And again, it's voluntary to come here to see what I think or Dex thinks or any of us. I hope that people do start waking up, and there's somebody waking up every single day, and there's someone new every day. If you look at this with the NERC reports of our power grid, there's all sorts of different signs pointing that we are headed to some sort of event, whether it be cyber, EMP, or a CME. I don't think they can predict the CME, so I'm more leaning on a possible EMP or a possible cyber event. Dex, let's go over the crazy stuff here.
Yeah, and there's a couple other things I want to mention that's in the news that you guys can check out. It's on our website as well. But look, there was a couple of hoax images, if you want to call them that, or computer-generated images that weren't factual, that got a lot of people buzzing. And this happens from time to time, but we're going to see more of this. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we've got, they want to usher in this whole notion of an online identity so they can identify things to help solve this new problem of, and I think the problem is being created so they have a reason to solve for the solution they want, which is to have everyone have an identity. When we've seen this in other countries actually taking place, of course, it's been that way in China, but we've seen other countries start to adopt it. But there was one that went out that was showing the Neanderthal man. And it was like back in like the 1800s, I believe. I can't remember the exact date, but it was film. It was alleged photograph, one of the first photographs, but of the last giant Neanderthal man, and everybody thought it was legit, and it was not. It was AI generated. And then there was another one that went out that showed an explosion near the Pentagon, and it was so real that people thought it was real during the day, and the stock market actually reacted to it. And then it quickly recovered once everybody realized, but just something like that looked so real, even though it was AI generated. So that's happening. That was in the news. And so, keep that in mind while, you need to pay attention to the imagery and question what is real and what is not. It's also, there's something else behind it, which is this whole notion of identity and identifying who makes things and whether they're made or whether or not, they're factual information. So that's going to be a huge push. And this type of activity that goes on is just going to get the public behind it. So the lawmakers can put those systems in place and rules in place that we're going to have to then live by. And we're not going to like it.
And
I
why,
can guarantee you.
Instead of punishing everybody for something like this, like if somebody does make an AI picture that's realistic and shares it as such, it should be under the same light as like pretending to be a police officer. Like if you did this and if you're trying to convince somebody that the Pentagon is on fire, that person should be punished. Now AI is going to do this. The more and more it happens, oh, this is a horrible thing. And if this keeps going, we won't know what's real and what's not. So we need a digital ID on every single person that uses the internet and uses AI and uses all this. This is how they create the problem. I don't know. So this is fishy. I get why people would go, oh, I'm going to make an AI photo of the Pentagon on fire. Like, people just do dumb stuff. But if you make it like this and then share it as real, that's where it should kind of cross the line of, like, if you're trying to, I guess in the same right, like if you put on a police uniform and try to pull somebody over. That's illegal. It's how you use it. But then what they're going to do is, even if this wasn't used in that way, what they'll do is this affected the stock market because people thought that the Pentagon was on fire. Like, that's nuts. Go ahead, Dex.
Yeah, and it's not, you said it exactly. If you say it's real, there is a use case where you make fake images. We watch it in movies all the time. Like, people make fiction, and there's nothing wrong with fiction. It's just when you take something that's fiction and you try to tell people that it's real, and you do it in a way that can stir up commotion or drop or tank markets. I mean, there's all sorts of ramifications that can come from that. It's sort of like you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire, right? It's things like that when there's a negative effect, the consequence to the people around you, to the public as a whole, based on your actions, that's when there's a problem. And in this scenario, when you create something that's fictitious and you don't label it as fictitious, or you claim it to be something that it's not, that's real, that's the problem.
Or if you're on a plane and you yell, boom, that's something that's going to get you arrested immediately. To save the rest of the internet and every single person that accesses it from a digital ID system, people need to start calling out. Like, if somebody does this, if it's not used for art, like, because I mean, look at how many movies they've done with Russell Crowe or whatever his name is, Gerard Butler, saving the White House on fire or whatever. That's a movie. This is basically a scene from a movie that doesn't exist. This is a piece of art. But when you say the Pentagon's on fire, that's something, you should be able to get arrested if you're trying to cause a ruckus like that. Like, there is no purposeful use. There's no reason why you should say that that's real and try to sell it to people as real, unless you're trying to cause a problem. I don't see there's a way. But make it on the individual side of it, not punish every single person on the planet because now they don't trust you to be able to use the internet because you could do something anonymously. I mean, that's where this is headed. These kind of things, AI, deepfakes, and the voice recognition and the voice copying, the parroting, this is getting to a scary point. Now, imagine this, in the near future, you won't be able to submit video evidence. There's not going to be video evidence. It just won't be admissible anymore. So what is? If you can't believe something with your own eyes, I mean, what else are they going to do? Put implants in our eyeballs that are accurate so they go, this person actually witnessed that, because you can't videotape what they saw. Cell phone videos definitely wouldn't be admissible. So it's kind of a scary thing then it would have to be on the honor system at that point. You're saying this is real. Okay, well, if it's found to be fake, then you're going to go to jail or something. I don't know. What is the solution to this other than what their draconian measures? I hope we find out something. All right, Dex, let's go over the web only.
Yeah, lots going on. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open up that show notes link down below in the description. It'll take you to this webpage with all the content we just covered. And then you'll find this yellow bar, this overflow, which is the rest of the story. All the additional content that we put together. Some of it's supportive of the information we've already talked about. Some of it is content that we don't normally talk about, but we want to make sure you have access to. So lots going on. As I mentioned earlier, we were talking about the debt. If we default, there's a pretty good article that explains what is going to happen. I mentioned a little bit of that there. But if you want to read more about what are the ramifications, go check that out. In the political spectrum, there's a lot happening right now. Another entry into the 24 time period, Tim Scott. We've got updates from Hillary is in the news. JB, of course, is there. People that are backing potentially Tim Scott in the news. Some updates on T-Man. Obviously, they continue to talk about DeSantis as well. So all of that coverage, if you're looking for it, it's in there. So we do have that CBS article we mentioned earlier about the excuses they were giving for why the sat phones are there. That's there. Hey, another problem in the homeless shelters. They're saying now that seniors are actually flooding them. That's a new statistic. There's some interesting surveys that went on about what people's beliefs are around religion, or more specifically, whether or not God exists. That's kind of fascinating to see the mindset of the people and whether or not you think it has changed over time. We do have the additional coverage of what's going on in UKR, some updates on, which attacks were taking place here, which ones were taking place there, the update on the power plant being turned back on, which that goes up and down all the time with the nuclear site there. That's always in the news. And even some other additional updates around AI. And look, they're studying, scientists are studying the brains of fighter pilots that have encountered UFOs. I wonder why they're looking at their brains. That will be interesting too. So that and much more, it's all there on our website. We put it together for you every night. Just go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or down below in the description, click on the show notes link. It'll take you right here.
Yeah, that's freaky. Scientist warns that aliens are here and have been for a long time. And it's the same scientists who studied brains of fighter pilots who reportedly encountered UFOs. That is weird. And then half the people that God exists, it's like, this has got to be a cultural thing. It's got to be in the. I was shouldering somebody watching TikTok. And it was a friend of mine, and they were killing time. And I was like, what are you watching? And it was a 9-panel debate on something. It was a racially motivated thing. And then they ended up, it was like saying white people don't experience racism, right? That was just the first one. I said, he goes, oh, well, this is just, and then he scrolled, and it went to a next one. And the next one was, what was it? It was a panel on I think it was trans rights, and then it was the next one. It went and it says spanking children is abuse. Changed my mind, and I was thinking, man, this is like 3 in a row that are like straight up like a lesson in this other kind of culture thing. It's like they straight up now have lives of all of these people gathering, and they only let one side of the argument. On the first one, it was 8 people in a Brady bunch of 9, and there was one white guy in the middle side that was arguing against the point, and it was 8 others that were for. And I'm like, this isn't a proper debate. And then every time he talked, one of the other people, and I swear you should have, it's crazy. You could literally, without the sound on, you could tell who was who. And I mean, it was all white people, by the way. They all told him to shut up. And the guy wasn't saying anything bigoted or racist or anything. He was basically saying, well, I think we should be able to talk about these issues. Shut up. Blah, blah, blah. You're this, you're that. And I'm thinking, this is cultural. Like, the TikTok platform, and I know some of you indulge in it, do you not see that? Do you not see the very heavy messaging, and it's very one-sided on there? That's you should have both sides represented, but apparently one side is being torn apart completely. Also, the same platform, Scroll, and they're doing these platforms and panels on Christian supremacy. And they're substituting white for Christian. And I'm like, what is this? It looked like straight up propaganda. I'm sorry. And I just wonder how those get to the very top to where people see those first. Mind you, the country in charge of the whole thing, they don't allow that there. It's like they're trying to destroy us from within or something. Don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you, everybody, for making it tonight. Thank you again over on D Live, Company 328. Thank you, and thank you. Thank you, Ferris. Thank you, Edith Ismaili. Thank you for joining the as members. And then thank you, Bobby Sue Fry. Thank you, of course, Machina Opus. And thank you, Stephen Wonder. I appreciate you. And Zen1AZ, Caitlin Sweat, thank you. Jerry Shirts says, obvious statement, we are not getting real news from UKR. But what the Rush are doing is actually truly sick. They should go back to Moscow. Jerry Shirts, 99. Overcame Bipolar Jesus says, intel that those senators with phones are report to COG vacation centers by May 27th. Be prepared by the Memorial Day. Verified by Daily Caller website. Cover story, though. Report to vacation. I will have to check that out. But, you know, this story could spur some pretty crazy theories, though. And some pretty scary, you know, fake stories, too. Be Real Beast, thank you. Matthew Michael, did you know in the movie Departed they were smuggling microprocessors into the U.S. from Taiwan? The movie came out in 2006. Departed. No, I'll have to watch that again. And then Mitchell Wintro says, hey, Adam, you rock. I really appreciate what you do. Can you go over a little bit of the tourists in Czechia? I think you mean Czechoslovakia? And his current events in Israel. I fly to Czech Republic on Friday and then to Israel on the following Wednesday. I am part Czech, so I will check up on the Czechs and I will let you know what I find. Hopefully there's nothing scary. And then to Israel, that part, I would say keep your head on a swivel right now, especially what's going on. And then Greg Davis, I fear that Xi will make a move on Taiwan before the 2024. They will need to take that territory before the climate starts to really turn. I kind of agree with you on that. I just think in general, before there's all these deadlines that are about to hit, that if we get to the point where we can do things ourselves, they're not going to have a chance to have that world domination leap over us if they don't take TSMC. Even if we destroy TSMC, it will give them the advantage if nobody has TSMC. Because we don't have any way to really do it ourselves. Dex, thank you for the service tonight. Thank you, mods. Make sure to go check out mods at marfooglenews.com/friends. Thank you, and thank you to all of the mods. Make sure to put an M in the chat right now for the mods. Say thank you to the mods in your own way. Again, these are some of the most awesome people ever. Bones, Chance, CJ, Jam, the Jam, Lisa, Rip, RJL, Ilea, Trinity, Red or Blue Pill, which, by the way, you guys make sure to go check out Trinity's new video on crazy goggle tech. She did a wonderful job. She also gifted 15 badges to people the other night. She's just a very sweet person. She loves the Foogle fam, and she wants everybody to be happy. So make sure to go say something nice, and make sure to go check out her channel. Very easy. It's easier to go to the Friends website and just click on this to go to her YouTube, because a lot of the times, because of her crazy long name, it's harder to find. It should be super easy to find considering what it is, but if you don't put the right places, it's hard to get there. So just click on our website and click over and subscribe. She has been doing really, really, really a lot of work into her movies, into her videos. So, and then check out Wages World. Thank you guys, and also all of them are great. Dex, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Have a good night. Make sure to be safe, be prepared, and Marv out. It's time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man. Contingency is just a plan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man. Contingency is just a plan. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, man.
All right, let's do a fresh one. And tonight, we will be doing one for Mitchell Wintro. Mitchell Wintro, thank you for being the top supporter tonight. Mitchell.